All right, let's see how fast I can do this. Here we go. All right, we got there. Wasn't too bad. John, here, you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. It is a Friday here on SDH AM, and we know how Fridays start, so we have to start the Friday off the right way. So here we go.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday. Friday. Friday.
It is Friday, and I will tell you this right now. This might be the most packed show we've ever had when it comes to guests. This might set a record for show length. I'll warn you now. So we got a lot of places to go, technology permitting, for those of you that believe in divine beings. So here's the rundown. Coming up in a couple of minutes, Jason Brock, president of Pritchard Industries Sports and Entertainment Group. We're going to take a look behind the scenes about what it costs, the human cost, manpower, hours, the whole thing, effort, all that, to host an event successfully the size of what is going on currently here in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So we're going to go behind the scenes a little bit, things that could go wrong, things that, and I will say this, I'll stipulate this now, and I will stipulate it again when Jason comes in. It goes swimmingly at Mercedes-Benz. It really does. So we'll discuss what it takes to make sure that something goes as swimmingly as possible. Talk with Jason in a little bit. Then we'll go over all your cup dates in the second half hour. We got to go over what happened in the matches yesterday. You're going to hear from Jesse Marsh. You're going to hear from Jewel Lopetegui. You're going to hear something else that happened yesterday that I was not really a fan of, and I know that a lot of folks in this footprint were not a fan of. That might end up being opening kickoff in the second half hour. But we're going to go over all the cup dates, get you ready for the match day today, 3 o'clock. That's the big one, United States in Seattle. If you need a note to get out of class, get back in class, know you're going to be late, sick note, let us know. We'll probably fire one off for you. We'll go over all the matches coming up second half hour. Then at 10 o'clock, it is our first visit with Carlos Mauricio Ramirez, who is traditionally doing play-by-play for Apple TV. He's on the sidelines for Telemundo for this World Cup. It is his 5th World Cup. We're going to catch up with him at 10 o'clock. Then the Power Hour at 10:30, it's reversed. Nico Moreno is going to join us from Seattle ahead of the match coming up this afternoon. Then we go to Lima, Peru at 11 o'clock, catch up with our buddy Nino Torres. Then at 11:30 to wrap things up, I think, technology permitting, that we're going to be able to go to Guadalajara and catch up with someone that is very, very close to us here in the SDH community. So keep your fingers crossed. Long show, wasting no time. We're officially in a no dilly, no dally zone. So that means that we bring in our first guest, Grand Exalted Poobah. I think that's on Jason's business card. It is president of Pritchard Industries Sports and Entertainment Group, Jason Brock, to talk about all things behind the scenes that we don't get to notice when it comes to making sure that an event this size that is currently going on goes off without a hitch. Jason, thanks for dropping by the morning show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, and I looked at when they sent the resume, I'm like, okay, dude has done a couple of things here. Salt Lake, Athens, Doha, Vancouver, London, Baku, Rio, Lima, NASCAR, U.S. Open, French Open, Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Cheltenham, and Silverstone. Please tell me that you at least got the miles and points out of the deal if you didn't get any sleep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, traveling a lot around all those cities definitely makes an impact on your rewards, on your points, as well as your body.
Yes, I can relate. When it comes to putting on, and we wanted to bring you in to kind of break everything down from a behind-the-scenes perspective, because I know that a lot of fans and patrons and those of us that cover it, we go walking up to a facility where, we're going to be covering the event, we're going to be enjoying the event, and everything looks great. You're going through security, metal detector sits there and doesn't look at your umbrella funny. You go in, you get seated, all those kinds of things. Over the years in all of the events that you've been to that are what I call big ticket items, What is the biggest thing that you have learned about making sure that these events go off as swimmingly as possible, and that basically the event itself is like an offensive lineman? You don't talk about it until there's a penalty thrown. How difficult is it to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch?
It's all in the planning. It's the coordination of the efforts. It's every single partner, every single vendor, every supplier playing a role in understanding the vision of what is trying to be produced and executing on all the small parts in order to make it all happen.
When you're talking about all these different parts, how many different elements of infrastructure are we talking about here? I mean, I could sit here and try to name some and we could brainstorm it a bit, but how many different parts of the flow chart are you having to sit there and navigate to make sure that everybody just goes to that top point and that everybody's acting as one? How many different things are we talking here?
Oh, I mean, there's more than probably 20, but
Wow.
I mean, the big ones are infrastructure, logistics, production, security, inside security, outside security, how you're liaising with the police, the first responders, to crowd control, to making sure that all of the parking and the ingress and the egress is happening from a traffic perspective, and the coordination of efforts with city planners. There's a lot of moving parts that go along with trying to make it as fun and comfortable for the fan as possible.
So for those that are being uncomfortable, so the rest of us can be comfortable, I mean, how far back, and I imagine that this is something of a weighted question, WEIGHTED, that if you're doing something for the first time, if you're doing a big ticket item for the first time, I would imagine that you might be meeting to death to make sure that everything is going to be okay. And then the more that you've done them, you might have less meetings proportionally and such. Is that kind of how this works? Is that the first timers want to sit there, they want to make sure everything is pluperfect, and then it might be less and less? Or are you finding that still, when you have folks that have done it before, they're still going to have the same kind of meeting numbers and the same kind of address with one another just to make sure that everything is fine?
You do have less and less as you get closer on your execution, from a meeting perspective, but you also are adjusting still. So you're still having to go back through, because the network timings and from a media perspective, and how all of those pieces are going to come to play throughout the game day. They're constantly adjusting for all those different components. So everyone in the entire stadium environment has to shift in order to compensate for all of those changes as well. So you have to really stay close to the pin on making sure that everybody is involved actively and executing appropriately.
What was the first big ticket item that you did?
I mean, for me personally, it was probably the 2002 games, and it was a good learn because it happened just after 9/11,
Right.
and so there was a massive amount of security infrastructure that was put into place, and so for me, nothing's quite been as dramatic as that, but still on the way through, definitely lots of learns and changes around the world as things have adapted since then.
And then obviously you could talk about COVID and the adaptations there as well, in a different kind of phrasing. But what did you learn in that first time in Salt Lake City that still may apply today when it comes to how you're trying to implement something and make sure that everyone's on the same page?
I think infrastructure and security infrastructure. So making sure that the entire place is safe. For all of the patrons and the fans, as well as the employees. I think prior to those games, not as many requirements and background checks and accreditation process maybe were as in play as it was post those games.
Are outdoor events, how I guess, let me phrase it this way. How different are outdoor events when it comes to making sure that everything is going as well as it can versus an indoor event in a controlled environment? Is the terminology and the language still the same and the implementation still the same, or is it different outdoors versus indoors?
It's definitely different. You're creating that infrastructure. You're building your four walls of your gates and then pushing back to make sure that the experience is appropriate for ingress and egress. That's probably the biggest difference. for an outdoor event than an indoor event. But aside from that, it's the same. On the inside, from a production perspective, it's very much similar.
When you have events and events and events and events and all the ones that you've covered, is there one particular element of preparation that seems to be the most common one where folks stumble, whether they're doing it for the first time or they sit there and it's like, yeah, we're good. No, we got everything covered. And then it comes up and bites them. Is there, in your experience, is there one particular aspect, whether you're a rookie or a veteran venue, that, okay, this keeps cropping up regardless of how much care we put into a situation?
I mean, I honestly believe there are so many people that are in that environment that go from games to games. It is very much a small crowd. And so I think that games just get better as they continue to evolve. I wouldn't say there is one particular, there might be a different stumbling block for the different countries as those same people are learning and adjusting from place to place, and how they manage through all of the critical components that make an event happen. But I think it changes depending on the location.
When it comes to all of the different aspects to make sure an event goes as well as it can, is there one particular part of it that those of us that walk in the door don't necessarily recognize? We might take it for granted ourselves walking in the door, but it's the most critical aspect of an event to make sure that it goes as well as possible. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there one part of this that is non-negotiable? This has to go as best as humanly possible to make sure that everything is going to be okay, that we don't notice walking in the door?
I would say it would be the difference between a regular event and a major event.
Right.
And that is a regular event, there might not be as large as worldwide coverage as a major event.
Right.
And those two differences make all of the difference in the world. And you might not notice them until you go to your regular stadium. You could go to a Falcons game in Atlanta, and you are aware of the experience, you're aware of the process, but then you might go to a World Cup match and it's completely changed. And the reason for that is because of safety and security and heightened media access and production that's going on, and all of the different infrastructure that's required. And those things you might not notice, but there'll be less seats available because there's way more media and production in the space as well.
Jason Brock, President, Pritchard Industries Sports and Entertainment Group, breaking things down behind the scenes. He's pulling back the curtain for us. He is our wizard when it comes to this kind of stuff, and breaking things down here to what we don't notice to make sure that things go as swimmingly as they do, especially in a World Cup. So let me ask you this. With the World Cup being in 3 separate countries, Canada, the United States, and Mexico, how much of a stumbling block is that? Because I would imagine that the 3 countries, they navigate things in the day-to-day, even from a governmental standpoint. You've got that you've got to tackle. Then you've got infrastructure ideas that you've got to tackle. Or in these 3 governments, are they sitting there and saying, okay, you guys have done this before, you're the ones in charge of this? And I would imagine that probably takes a lot of internal control with these governments to sit there and say, yeah, you got this. We'll keep an eye on things. How different is it to discuss things amongst country lines as opposed to city lines and city governments, you think?
I mean, I think that the local organizing committee that is involved in each one of those locations and stadiums are probably really helping that process entirely. From my perspective, from a contractor, a third-party perspective, if I were going to be at every single one of those locations, the challenges for me would be making sure that my management have the appropriate work visas, the accreditations that they require for those locations, and we'd have to work through all of those angles before we can get our infrastructure on site and our people. And I can only assume they're having to do the same thing within FIFA, and it's a major hurdle for sure.
When you mention all this paperwork, how do you keep from being overwhelmed as an administrator or the person who's at the front of the spear and that front contact person? because of all the paperwork that you got to fill out, because of all of the things that you've got to do, how do you keep from being overwhelmed in a situation like this? Is it reps, or are there still things that you sit there and you go, man, I've forgotten about this, or I'm just learning about this? How do you keep from being overwhelmed as an individual in charge for a big ticket item like this?
That's where the early prep and the early planning comes into play. You've really got to get ahead of it if you're going to be playing a role in a larger part of of an organization like this. You really have to have plenty of time in advance to be able to make mistakes, and then hopefully surround yourself with the right people who know what they're doing and can help move you through those processes a bit quicker.
Then you've got, what was it? What's the old quote? I think it's the Mike Tyson quote. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. When you have everything, or you think you have everything all lined up, and then you've done it before, and so everything's cruising up until day number 1, and then that's when you really kind of have to ramp things up again and get to that next level of preparation and such. I mean, I think this is something that a lot of folks may not necessarily understand, is that you can plan all you want. You can sit there and go, okay, here's the flow chart, here's operations, here's this, here's this, here's this, but that's pre-planning. And then when you're in the event window itself, it's an entirely different pressure structure and responsibility structure that folks have to navigate. Am I wrong here?
No, we call it the event panic. Everybody gets in. You spend all of your time, like you're saying, in your prep mode, and you're teaching your people, and you're walking through the process, and then all of a sudden there's a major pivot, and you have to learn to adjust to those things. And over the years, we've done a really good job of that because we just have so many communication abilities. Every one of our people have a radio, and we can guide everyone through the process, and they're guiding all of their team through the process as well. So little tricks help in a big way.
When was the first time that you, as an individual in charge, had to deal with a pivot panic and fix something on the fly?
I'll go back a few years. I was working with in Rio and for the games, and we were just trying to get a portion of our industry set up, which was our infrastructure set up, which was the laundry process for the village. And all of our stuff got held up in customs for a very long time.
Wow.
With a bit of red tape. And so there was a lot of panic from our technology perspective, just because we really needed that in order to get set up properly on site. Luckily we did, but it was very last minute, and we made it happen, but that was difficult, very difficult.
What advice would you give to venue organizing committees and event organizing committees to understand the elements that you as an infrastructure organizer have to get done so you can function? I mean, what advice would you give all of the red tapers to understand what you've got to do? I know that navigating countries and laws and governments and security and all that kind of stuff is different from case to case, but is there something that you would sit there for organizing committees to sit there and have them understand, we got to do this, you got to help us out here and meet us or at least try to meet us halfway here? What's the biggest thing that you would recommend to organizing committees and venues about making sure that everything can be in place and be as best as it can?
Over communicate. That's what I would say. And many contractors can help overcome many obstacles if we know what those are. You got to know what the problems are. And I think that the more that people over communicate, the better the event will be. The more people know exactly what's happening, and the more they can help to assist and adjust.
How long did it take you to impress upon folks we need to over communicate here?
Pretty early on. Only because there's so many moving parts, and so if you don't over communicate, things just get lost in the shuffle.
When is your next big ticket item?
Well, right now our company is in the middle of a major growth mode, so it continues to perpetuate itself through all the different regular facilities that we take on all the time. So we're in the middle of one right now. We just finished up assisting with the finals in San Antonio, which was an amazing experience for our team. And I would say probably the next one that we're transitioning for right now is in Atlanta, which is the Georgia World Conference Center as well.
Wow. Okay, so Georgia World Congress Center. So we're going to be seeing you in our neck of the woods, hanging out with big ticket items coming up soon. I cannot thank you enough for doing this, to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, to have folks understand what it means to go into a venue and make sure that, yeah, everything's great. You walk in line, your tickets are great, everything's fine, no problems, none of this. But to have folks understand what it takes to get to that point. I can't thank you enough for dropping by and educating us here on a Friday morning. If you would please, sir, go get breakfast and a cup of coffee, and just enjoy your weekend, and get some rest, man, because I know you're going to need it when you come over here and hang out at the World Congress Center. Thanks for dropping by this morning on the morning show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. There goes Jason Brock, president of Pritchard Industries Sports and Entertainment Group. Thought we would do there is just kind of let you know things behind the scenes when it comes to infrastructure and knowing about that kind of stuff. So what it takes to go in as swimmingly as possible. And Jason has done, how many events? 2, 4, 6, 8. When it comes to games, whether it's five ring circus or the Asia Games in the Doha, NASCAR, tennis, professional championships, horse racing, and then racing on four wheels. So it dates back to 2 decades plus. So just to kind of let everybody know what the venues are going through. And like I said, I will say this off the top. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it is, the game day is the easy day. It's almost like being a successful coach. That the hard part is during the week or in between events. And then your game day, that's the easy part, because you've prepared for everything to get to game day to make sure everything is there and that you've prepared for every eventuality. And game day is the easy part. Everything's in place. And that was why I wanted to ask the question about, getting the pivot when you get punched in the mouth and having to be nimble and that kind of a thing. So that was why I wanted to ask that question. So that's Jason Brock, once again, Pritchard Industries Sports Entertainment Group, talking the stuff that we don't get to see to make sure that the events that we do see go off as well as they can. So once again, thanks to Jason and dropping by this morning here on the morning show. All right, let's get into the soccer part. Now, here's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay, yesterday in this thing called the World Cup, we had 4 matches, and for once we had a decent out time. We had a decent out time because something started at 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 or 11:30 or something like that. Morning Lokeville. Morning Will. And Lokeville, I appreciate this. This is the original. And apparently they have brought back WKRP AM radio in Cincinnati. They've taken the call letters, and I think that they did a bit of an homage to the station in this form when they came back online. Morning, David. So WKRP is actually back in real life in Cincinnati, by the way. We had 4 matches yesterday. And the first one was here at Atlanta Stadium. We'll go ahead and say that. And it was Czechia and South Africa. Czechia gets the early lead, and you're thinking, okay, they're taking care of business. Everything's going to be navigated, but they couldn't get the second. And they were kind of working their way through things. And by the end of it all, it would be a 1-1 draw. You would end up with a PK that was taken with about 10 minutes to go. And it was, if it's a judgment call from Tori Penso and the crew, you could sit there and go either way with it. And Tori Penso and Brooke Mayo and Catherine Nesbitt, they were of the thought that, yes, it was a PK. And so then you end up with a PK taken after the Sadilet goal in the 6th minute. You go all the way to the 83rd, and Taboho Mokoena scores the PK to make it 1-1. The game itself, attendance was listed at 67,442. And you had 2 dates that had almost 140,000 folks wandering into Atlanta Stadium. So it was a 1-1 final at the end. And really in Group A, with that result, it really doesn't help either side because of what happened in the nightcap that we'll get into in a bit. So you end up with this result in Group A. And it wasn't as much the result that kind of, rankled me. And it's rare that, I legitimately do get, kind of bent out of shape. But when I heard about this particular comment, I got bent out of shape. And Czechia and South Africa will get into the standings here in Group A. The draw didn't help them. Really, it didn't, because now you're going to have somebody win, Korea Republic lose, that kind of stuff, because you've got Czechia and South Africa at 1 point, and then the other two teams that we'll talk about from the nightcap coming up at the end of this segment. So after the match, the head coach for South Africa is a gentleman by the name of Hugo Broos. And he decided that he was asked a question about venue and such, and, playing in the Azteca versus playing at Atlanta Stadium. So this is what Hugo Broos said after the match about this, about the venue that he played in yesterday afternoon. And I'm really liking these noon kicks. I really am, in the grand scheme of things, because then you get work done. But here's what he said when he was asked about venues specifically. And once again, this comes courtesy of our friends at FIFA. But post-match, about 11 minutes in, here's what Hugo Broos said about the venue that he just played in with his side.
If I can be very honest, this is not a football stadium. It's a nice stadium, fantastic stadium, everything you want, but only the grass is football. All the rest is not. It's a covered stadium, so I like to play in an open stadium. I don't feel really the atmosphere in such a stadium. When you compare it with Azteca, for example, that's a football stadium. So if we have to deal with it, and again, those stadiums are fantastic stadiums. Also for the crowd, I think they see everything in that stadium. There are no places who are covered or whatever. So again, but I rather like a real football stadium.
So Hugo Broos is of the opinion that Mercedes-Benz is not a real football stadium. Let me take you back. In December, when they had the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, December 28th of last year, led Cameroon to the title in 2017 in Gabon, took South Africa to a third-place finish in 23 in the Ivory Coast. In the AFCON, he said that there was a lack of enthusiasm for the 35th Africa Cup. Quote, in the Ivory Coast and in Gabon, every second of the tournament, you felt that you were in a tournament. The people were, when we went with the bus to train, the people were waving and they were with flags, and here you see nothing. So I don't know, but there's no vibe. There's no typical AFCON vibe. I don't feel it here. So that he said that in December. And then he said, if I can be very honest, this is not a football stadium. And then he laughed. He kind of snickered. It's a nice stadium, fantastic stadium, everything you want, but only the grass is football. All the rest is not. It's a covered stadium. I like to play in an open stadium. Sorry, I like to play in an open stadium. I don't feel really the atmosphere in such a stadium when you compare it with the Azteca, for example, and he snickered again. That's a football stadium. So we have to deal with it. And then he finished his soundbite. I'm just going to say it this way. Bless his heart. When you have 39,000 folks in 2 matches with 4 separate countries in X number of days apart, show up in a venue to support the world's game that he has been an accomplished coach in on multiple occasions in the African continent. When you want to wander in to a venue that has housed 73,000 for a championship game, that has housed over 50,000 for a women's tournament, without as much as a second glance. Bless your heart, Hugo Bros. Bless your heart. I don't know if, and you feel like you have to be in the open, literally when he's like, it's not in the open air. The first thing that popped into my head was he sounds like someone who went to school barefoot in the snow, walking both ways uphill to school and back. And that was the only way to go to school. So for Hugo Bros, it seems like it's almost to the point where it's a tired out for him. If things aren't going well on the pitch, you talk about the lack of a vibe. You talk about the city itself. You talk about the presentation as your way to have folks focus on external factors instead of internal factors when it comes to success or a lack of success. I would posit, sir, that had your team been more adventurous, they would have won the match against Czechia. You had double-digit numbers in shots outside the 18. You had a team that seemed either at a lack of ideas or frustrated and wanted to pull the trigger quickly outside the 18, thinking that the more that you did that, the more successful you were going to be. You're taking corner kicks and you decide to go short instead of send it inside the 18. Yes, I know that there might have been times where you were altitudinally challenged with the individuals inside the 6. But what you decide to do with a corner kick is play it short outside the 18, then continue to pass it to about 26 or 27 yards out. First impulse for that individual that received the second pass off a corner kick is to launch it from 26 or 27. What does he do? It goes straight into the defender. That happened more often than not. There was a reason that of the double-digit shots that were taken by South Africa yesterday, 8 of those were blocked by Czechia. It was either frustration or lack of perceived second option. Why not try and find a way to get a shot closer to the target if you're South Africa than continually trying to launch from outside 22 or 23 yards away? It was literally 3-to-1 odds, or 3-to-1 in percentages of shots outside the 18 versus inside the 18. The numbers were reversed for Czechia. But it seemed like your players were either frustrated, didn't have any ideas past first launch. Oh, I've got the ball. I think I should shoot. There was a reason that 8 shots were blocked yesterday. You wanted to work the perimeter, or if you did it very quickly. And you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go ahead and shoot. I'm going to keep Czechia's defense on their heels. I'm going to fire the first time I get the ball. Settle, shoot. Block. it seemed like there was a lack of ideas in trying to get a game-tying / game-winning goal most of the time. And if I'm a fan of Bafana Bafana, I would be frustrated because of the lack of apparent ideas in trying to get inside the 18, shoot, and possibly score. But Hugo Bros, in a loss, seems more content to look at the venue as his way to distract from a lack of success on the field. And I hate to break it to him. As I said, bless your heart, sir. But that's as much a football stadium as it is a football stadium. You got 5 group games. You got 3 knockout games. You got a semifinal. Folks here are doing something right. So when you want to come into the South, an area of the United States where the sport is booming, and sit there and say that a football stadium isn't a football stadium, come with us into the modern era, sir. Please do. You'll like what you see. But it seems like part of his DNA is to discuss a venue or a vibe when things aren't going well. Like I said, if I was a fan of Bafana Bafana, I'd be concerned about how you want to approach things. I'm not disputing his past. I'm not disputing his history. I'm not disputing his success as a coach. But don't come into my town and tell me that my building isn't a football stadium, when we can continue to tell you over and over and over that it is, and that you're in a part of the United States where it is. You want vibe? Come back to us on a high school day. We'll get you vibe. And it'll be outdoors. We can take you anywhere that we have been here at SDH. We can take you to Hazelhurst. We could take you to Lincolnton. We could take you down south to South Georgia, whether it's Thomasville or Fitzgerald or Valdosta or Columbus. And that's on the secondary school level. You want vibe? We'll take you to vibe. You go to Dalton, that's a vibe. We got a big building right in the middle of it that's hosted a lot of big ticket items. You want vibe? Come as a civilian. Just come as someone. We'll get you a field pass. You want vibe? You want a rivalry game? We'll get you a rivalry game. We will take you to the high school championships. You want vibe? Crowd of 3,000 people. We'll get you vibe. You want vibe? We'll get you into a building in an international competition that, without as much as a second blush, brings in 65, 70,000 people. Football stadia have had to evolve over time so you're not playing in mud pits. I imagine that's what you prefer when it comes to the cold and the wind and, having it smashing up against your face and you're having to wear 38 layers to make sure that you can actually feel your hands. But perhaps come up with new material. You were losing in AFCON. The vibe wasn't there. You have a frustrating draw where you're probably not going to go into the group stage, and you sit there and you call out the venue. The venue can't respond to you in kind. Those of us who've been in the venue more than you, sir, can. Do not misunderstand. I love the fact that we get to see the world play the game. So many different styles, so many different environments, so many different fan bases. But don't go to the venue and say it's the venue's fault if things don't go right. Happened in AFCON in December, happened yesterday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I apologize for taking 15 minutes on this. But do better. You want a vibe? You've come to the right part of the United States where it has been growing and growing fiercely. Come back. We want you to come back. We want you to see how it grows. We want you to see how it's different. But to, in a press conference, say that it is not a football stadium, I think the numbers and the fans and the different games would be enough empirical evidence to disagree with you. But come back anytime. We'd love to have you, because we want the game to continue to grow. And what was said yesterday in your press conference does not grow the game. And I would hope that there is more planned for Bafana than just launching shots outside the 18 all day, thinking that the more you do something, you're going to break the wall down. When Czechia had a fantastic defense that they brought to the table. Now you got work to do in match day 3. What do you do in match day 3, sir, in Group A? We'll all find out together. All right. Sorry about that. Illustrious Clip VOK. You, sir, are going to get blocked. Like I said, we all want to see the game grow. We all want to see it grow. And when you have, sadly, individuals come in and say things like they say, it doesn't grow the game. The game has evolved past being in 20,000 seat outdoor stadia that don't have, heated seats or whatever. The game is growing, continues to grow. And like I said, I give Hugo Bros an open invite. We will take you to places with vibe, sir. We will show you the vibe and how it's growing here in the southeastern United States. We will show you how the vibe is growing here in the United States, period. But come back, please. We'll show you vibe. And we will show you repeatedly that in the southeastern United States, Atlanta Stadium is a football stadium. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Aye. All right. Starting the day with the most important stories in the game, right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend, made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. All right. Michael was disappointed in the PK call, and that's the thing. Tori Penso yesterday, I think she navigated it well, because FIFA doesn't want what we get to see a lot when FIFA's not around, where folks are calling 35 fouls and all that kind of stuff. It was a judgment call. And if you are calling a match a certain way, then that would fit in line with it. And it was with 13 minutes to go, and you end up with that. But it is a judgment call. So, I can definitely see where Michael's coming from. I can definitely see why Tori Penso made the call. So, but in the overall, I think that the Penso, Mayo, Nesbitt crew, I think they handled the match pretty well, except for a couple of points late. There was some, I think when there was some dark arts and trying to keep balls in possession in corners when folks were knocked down. But she was consistent about it. If you weren't going to call it early, you're not going to call it late. So I'll take the consistency over not calling a foul, if that makes any sense. So I think that the Penso, Mayo, Nesbitt crew, I think they handled it well. But like I said, but to Michael's point, I think that the PK was a judgment call. And if it was in line with everything else, then, I'm okay with the consistency. So 1-1 was your final. That was the noon kick. Then you go from there. Switzerland, it was 1-0. Switzerland and Bosnia and Herzegovina, it was 1-0. Then you get a red card, and then all hell broke loose in that one. Switzerland ends up winning by the score of 4-1. Granit Xhaka scored at SoFi. And we'll get into Group B here with the third match of the day, Canada and Qatar. And in this one, it was I mean, it was heated. It was a great – you want vibe? I'm guessing that Hugo Broos would sit there and say that BC Place is not a football stadium either. But it was packed. It was red. And a lot of it is going to be overshadowed by the injury to Ismail Kone. And it happened on a tackle in the early 50s. And it did result in a red card for Asim Madibo. And it was a game that Canada had been navigating and they were in control of. Goal by Kyle Larin in the 16th. Jonathan David scores in the 29th. Your first red happens in the 33rd, so Qatar is down to 10. Jonathan David scores at 45 plus 3. He would eventually get a hat trick with a goal at 90 plus 2. But 3-0 at the break. You end up with the Madibo red on the tackle to Ismail Kone. And then you would score 3 more after that. Saliba, an OG, and then Jonathan David at 90 plus 2. Final 6-0. And it looks like, even with goal difference, that the video, I'm just going to say this. The video is out there. If you got a strong enough stomach, I'm not going to tell you where to go find it because it's out there and you can go watch. And there are stills. And once again, if you have a strong stomach, then you can watch it and then, you can see the stills and then everything is there. So, but yeah, it was a nasty tackle. And we have the sound from Jesse Marsh and Julian Lopetegui from after the match. Canada wins at 6-0. Qatar is in serious trouble, obviously. They're going to have to win. They're going to have to win big. It's going to have to be an upset, all the things. But obviously, after the match, everyone was focused on the injury to Ismail Kone. Here is Jesse Marsh after the match describing what he saw and what happened and what it meant going forward.
It happened right in front of the bench. We could all hear it. I knew right away. It was similar to when Tajon got hurt in training. It was right in front of us, and everyone could hear the bone snap. So, your heart goes out to him, and everybody's a little shaken by the whole experience because of the nature of the injury, and also because Ismail is a big part of the heart of our team. It will be a big loss for us. He's been an amazing player in these last 2 games. But look, you saw also that he was waving to the crowd and almost making everybody else feel at ease with the fact that he's injured. And that's, it's an incredible statement about Ismail as a person, but this is our team. I've been trying to tell people for 2 years about the special character of this group. And it gets highlighted in moments of challenging moments and in moments of glory. And I think that today was a representation of all of that. And you got to see how the team, everybody was crushed when it happened, but we had to find a way to stay focused. We knew that Ismail wanted us to finish the job. There's a lot of thoughts that go through our heads right now, and we're all thinking about him, but we're all very proud of what we are. That's what I would say more than anything is we're very proud of who we are and what we are. And I think that was all on showcase today.
Top of Group B right now, it's Canada. 2 matches, a win and a draw, and they are at 4 points. Once again, they're ahead of Switzerland by 3 in goal difference. Bosnia-Herzegovina is at 1 point. They're at -3 in goal difference. Qatar, obviously, -6 in goal difference, and they're at 1 point. So Canada, Switzerland, they look like they, in some manner, way, shape, form, or fashion, will be the 2 out of Group B. And then Bosnia, I'm going to say Bosnia because Qatar, once again, is -6 in goal difference. It would have to be a major upset, and it would have to be a win, and they would have to make up a large margin. So I think that pretty much knocks out both Bosnia-Herzegovina and Qatar out of Group B. So 6-0 there, and obviously we'll keep an eye on replacements and what Jesse Marsh wants to do going forward when it comes to formations and rosters and such. The late game was in Guadalajara. And like I said, if technology can cooperate, 11:30, we'll talk about this match more. Mexico, Korea Republic. And it was a win for Mexico 1-0 on a gaff of gaffes by the Korea Republic keeper, throwing it into one of his own players. and the ball kicking backward and it being a slam dunk for Mexico inside the 6. So with the win, Mexico, 2 wins, they have made it through. Korea Republic is at 3 points because the first tiebreaker, remember, is head-to-head. So Korea Republic would lose the tiebreaker head-to-head if they were tied with the same number of points. Basically, Mexico, just to continue to win, they need a draw in match day 3. And so it will be up to Mexico to just kind of get at least 1 point out of the deal. If they don't, in match day 3, Korea Republic, if they get a win, then they would lose on the tiebreaker. So Mexico would be Group A. They have made it through. Technically, they haven't made it through yet because we haven't played match day 3, but it's leaning that way with El Tri and with the win over Korea Republic. We'll get into that coming up in, once again, just a little bit. So that's the breakdown of yesterday. We'll be kind of weaving in the activities of today in and out of the show with the guests that we have with all of the folks that are going to be coming in, Carlos Mauricio Ramirez, with Nico, with Nino, and with the Hoff, technology permitting. So we'll be getting into that as we go here for the remainder of the show. And the U.S. will be getting into that as we go. But juice boxes for today. It is 3 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock. It is 8:30, and it's 11 for Group D and Group C. So it's DCCD today. U.S. has increased as a favorite. It is now minus 161 going up against Australia at a plus 425. Draws a plus 359. 6 o'clock, Scotland and Morocco in Foxborough. Scotland, a big dog at a plus 490. Draws a plus 270. Morocco at a minus 143. Brazil and Haiti is at 8:30. This one is in Philly at the Link. Brazil a minus 909. Haiti is a plus 2200. Your draw is a plus 1000. And late night in Santa Clara, Turkey and Paraguay. Turkey's a plus 104. Draws a plus 240. And Paraguay is a plus 285. Currently, the standings, Group C, Scotland's on top with 3 points with their win last time out. This is their match day 2. Morocco and Brazil with the 1-1 draw. They are even at 1 point. And then it is Haiti after the loss in the opening round, or in the opening match day. They are at 4th right now with the loss on the board, and they have work to do. Group D, just so you know it, once again, USA's on top, plus 3 in goal difference. They are a goal ahead of Australia in goal difference over their win over Turkey. Turkey and Paraguay with work to do as they play each other in Santa Clara tonight in Group D. So it's 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4 in Group D. And like I said, we'll be weaving through the storylines of today for the rest of the show. And we'll be breaking it all down for you here in just a little bit. Since we are cruising toward the top of the hour, I believe that means it is now time for our hydration break, brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor Stores, 2 locations, Johns Creek and Cobb Parkway. Local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor Stores, thanks for dropping by and being a great partner with us here in the season that is the spring and summer of soccer. The spring and summer of soccer all in one place, and it's here, and we can't thank enough our friends that are partners with us here on the SDH network, and local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor Stores responsible for our hydration breaks. So everyone take your hydration break, and we're going to get ready for hour number 2. So like I said, hour number 2, opportunity to catch up with Tomo Papa and Nico and Nino, and that's the power hour. It goes from 10:30 to 11:30, and like I said, technology permitting, 11:30, we're going to go to Guadalajara and catch up with the Hoff and find out what's going on with that. All right, so let me properly tease this because it's the first time on the show, so it'll be first time, long time. Anything else on his mind, not in his mind, on his mind in the world of soccer? Be a part. This is me like producing at the same time and doing all kinds of social media of the conversation. Be a part of the conversation. If I could type with my fingers, that would be fantastic. I have fatter fingers than normal when it comes to keyboards. Part of the conversation at SDH, YouTube, X, Twitch, and NSBN. So NSBN Sports. If I could spell and keep everything off of everything. Oh, yeah, I cannot type today at all. So I don't have to type. We're going to bring in somebody who's a better typer than I am. I can guarantee it. We're going to go to parts unknown and find out what is going on the mind of @Tomapapa on the Twitter. Again, Carlos, what is up, my friend? Thanks for dropping by the morning show.
Thank you for the invitation.
First and foremost, you know that you can come by anytime. Now that you have the keys to the kingdom, you know you got the garage. You got the garage door opener now. You know where we put the key under the mat. You know you can come in and crash at all times. Since you are in parts unknown, where exactly are you, sir?
I am in San Jose, California. A good, I want to say, 15 minutes away from Levi Stadium, where Turkey and Paraguay will play today.
Whoa! You're up at 7 o'clock in the morning, hanging out with us.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
wow.
a level of commitment we have here in the West Coast.
Man, well, and as a West Coastie, I can definitely agree. I was born in Lakewood. I'm one of those SoCal kids, so I'm right there with you. Angels fan, don't hold it against me. That's kind of how I was raised. I know. We're awful. Don't get me started about Artie Moreno. That's a different show.
Yeah.
What have your travel plans been like so far here in the tournament? Where have you gone? What have you seen?
Well, I'm staged here. I'm based here in Santa Clara, so I'm just covering the two teams based here. That would be Australia and Paraguay.
Got it.
And all 6 games that have been or will be played here. That means Qatar, Switzerland, and Austria, Jordan. I got the Turkey-Paraguay match today with Telemundo, so that's my schedule as of now until July 1st. After July 1st, it is TBD, so I don't know what the schedule has in store for me after that. Round of 32 match that we all expect will be Team USA here.
And see, now then you're gonna sit there and you're gonna ask, hey, so I'm cool. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm already locked in. It's like I don't have to go anywhere. I'll cover that one for you.
Yeah.
Since you're going to be doing Turkey and Paraguay today, we'll start there. Then we'll get into the hosts and all that kind of stuff. What has study hall been like getting ready for this one? It's 3 versus 4 in Group D, and it's win now, or you're pretty much packing it up. And match day 3 is just kind of be there for you.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are very much in desperation mode. I had the chance to go to the press conferences yesterday for both Vincenzo Montella, the Turkey head coach, and for Paraguay as well, who I have been more in contact with because, well, they're here. And the vibe I get is very similar, John, in this sense. There was much more conversation about pressure and media injustice or coverage injustice or unnecessary, even unhealthy expectations from media environments on both countries that then bleeds over to what's happening here. Yeah. And I found interesting both Montella and Alfaro were talking about, let's be fair with the kids and the players and let's protect them. And even Montella said there's chaos in Turkey that is unheralded. It's unnecessary at this stage of the tournament. So I just found it very interesting. I think it's going to be a pressure cooker for both, even more so because of the fact that they will be playing after what Team USA does earlier in the first window of the day. Yeah. So that is going to have a say in what the match will mean for all of the involved. No matter what happens, Australia's got another life, not so much so for Turkey and or Paraguay, because if there's a winner here, then whoever loses the match is pretty much out of the tournament, right? Especially if it's Turkey, because they would have lost against Australia, against Paraguay, and then Team USA is through. So because of now the seeding and the tiebreakers, if you have lost to Australia and Paraguay, and then Team USA is already through, if they beat Australia, then you're pretty much cooked. So I expect a pressure cooker of a game for both. They both say it's a final, and I agree with that statement.
So then you mentioned the head-to-head and staring at the big dog right now at the top of the group. And the first match of the day is going to be up the coast in Seattle. I still call it Lumen. I'm still getting used to this whole city thing of
I'm with you.
Seattle Stadium. But I will give the jeans folks the fantastic marketing idea that they did. It's like, you got to cover your logo. It's like, okay, we'll cover the logo, but the tarp will be form-fitting. And that's branding 101, and I love that. With the U.S. and Paraguay, obviously, study hall for you. With Paraguay was staring at match number 1 going up against the United States. We still don't know what Christian Pulisic's status is. When you look at the U.S. going into this matchup against Australia, that they're not taken for granted because they can't.
Yeah.
What have you seen so far from the U.S. that has stuck with you? What are you anticipating today for match one?
I think they were the best team in round one. So if we just break this down by stages, and stage one ended a couple of days ago with that England, Croatia, and Ghana, Panama, and Colombia, Uzbekistan. That was the first cut, if you will.
Yeah.
I think of that first round, Team USA was the best team of the tournament because of who they were playing against, because of the scene that they had to overcome. It's home soil. It's the pressure cooker of, the inauguration, the whole scenery, the whole pomp and circumstance of that event. And we heard Mexico coach Javier Aguirre say that he had 3 players cramping up after that first game because of what it meant. So I don't think people really understand what it all entails for a player to listen to the national anthem and listen to Katy Perry, and it's months and months of buildup and expectation to go out there, John, and perform the way that Team USA did against a team that since Alfaro took over in the CONMEBOL or South American qualifiers only gave up 6 goals against, and to score 4 times against that team, the high pressure, the level of consistency and physical dominance against a very physical team, to me, was very impressive. Now, for today, if Christian can't go, and I said last night on my radio show here in San Francisco that the only way he plays, if I'm Pochettino, the only way Christian plays today is if he is 100% physically good to go. If he is 95%, you don't play. If you don't rush him, you don't risk him, because they have enough in the tank and depth-wise to beat Australia. If I would much rather see Tim Weah out there today, which is what I think will happen if Christian can't go. Have Tim out there on the left flank, and the rest of the team remains untouched from the Paraguay match. That's more than enough with Seattle behind them, with the raucous noise environment, with all that stage behind them. That should be more than enough to overtake and beat Australia.
And you mentioned Paraguay, and in match day number 1, the United States, and I've tried to explain it to folks at points. It's not quite Bielsa and Nolan Richardson on steroids, basically.
Right.
It's not quite 90 minutes of hell, but you saw them pressure Paraguay, and literally it's like you wanted to press them out of the building and force them into decisions that they were uncomfortable in making, and then creating things, short fields and such. I'm intrigued, and I'm kind of drifting back and forth here with how Paraguay handles Turkey, because of what happened the first time and how their adjustments are going to be, and how wound up they're going to be going into this loser leave town match that's going to happen later tonight.
Yeah, and same goes for Turkey, because if they lose, I mean, the fact that whoever loses this, the Australia victory over Turkey has sent this group into a frenzy, right? No one had that victory, at least not that I know of, except maybe Australians had that win on their schedule. But I think what both Montella and Alfaro are going through today is, who are we really, and who is our opponent really? Do we, if I'm Paraguay, is the real Turkey, it's the Slim Shady conundrum. Will the real Turkey please stand up? So is Turkey is that the real Turkey, or the one we saw only 3 points behind Spain on qualifiers? And Turkey's asking, is that Paraguay against Team USA the real Turkey, or will the real Paraguay please stand up? And it will be that defensively minded, soundly coached, tactically driven, physically imposing team who had the same points as Brazil. And which one is it? So they're both. And because of that question, do we over adjust? Do we overcorrect? Or do we just stay the course and be who we think we are? And that's the conundrum both coaches, I think, face in a short tournament where everything matters more, because you don't have the games that you might have in qualifiers to, tinker and adjust and find ways to, find solutions.
El Tri last night That was a hopping environment, and it's always fun for me because I'm a sicko. I will stay up late. I will watch everything late, and then I've got to get up early and do things. And I'm not a morning person, so literally, someone who's not a morning person doing a morning show after a late night. Those are always fun combinations. My BS coefficient is very, very low. Last night, what did you think of El Tri, where you're going up against Korea Republic? The purple kits, by the way, those were strong. I really love those. You had a moment, and that's what the tournament is, really. It's a bunch of moments. You had a moment from the Korea Republic keeper that creates the one opportunity, and that's by the end of it all, really, that's all you needed. But what did you think about how El Tri handled themselves last night?
It was a very grown-up game. It was a very mature game by Mexico for many reasons. I've said many times, John, that I think over the past 28, 30 years, going back to 96, right, the birth of MLS, if you go to the 98 World Cup, if you look at that tournament and fast forward to today, I think the three nations that have grown the most from a national team standpoint are Morocco, Japan, and South Korea. Morocco they shared a group with Brazil back in 1998, and they had no business being in that match. Fast forward to 26, they should have won against Brazil. Japan, they were pretty much a nice Cinderella story. Oh, here come the Asians who are – we were talking about cartoons and how they have this show and Benji. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And then South Korea. They're fast. They're strong. Their center backs can beat you any way you can. They're playing in Germany, in Bayern Munich, in PSG, in Kangin Lee, and they're really physically imposing. So Mexico knew they had to survive the game. They had to tactically be sound, not give away any space behind their back line. They're missing Cesar Montes, who had that dumb red card against South Africa. Edson Alvarez hasn't played that much football because he was injured with Fenerbahce, and he was playing right center back in that four-back line with a new right back in Jorge Sanchez. So that whole right side of the back line was new for this match. Javier Aguirre, who I think is the best coach in Mexican history, knew whoever made a mistake would win the game. And South Korea made the mistake. They lost the game. So it was a very grown-up, very mature understanding of situation. You had South Africa tie with Czechia earlier today, so they knew if they won, they would go through as group leaders. So now they have it's really tempting for you to relax, John, because, hey, if we win, we're through as group leaders, so we can relax and stay at Estadio Azteca for the rest of the tournament, or at least until round of 16. So, again, mature, poised, tactically sound. Plus, it was a historically important game, John, because it was the first time ever that Mexico played a World Cup match in Guadalajara. They played Mexico City. In 1970, they played in Toluca. In 86, they played in Monterrey. That never played in Guadalajara, which is a soccer frenzied part of the country. So there were a lot of condiments there for them to go emotionally bankrupt, and I thought it was really mature.
This is your fifth World Cup, right?
Sixth.
Wow, good on you.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you to see the game continue to grow and evolve the way that it has, where we're having these discussions about the game in the Far East and how everyone's catching up with all the big guns? What's it been like for you to see the game get to this point where we got to know about everybody who's coming in, because you never know who's going to come up and bite you?
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's why it's the biggest sport on the planet. It's why when some things, it's funny because you go back to 1994 when the Bossman Law came into existence in Europe, and that just unlocked so many opportunities for players to go to Europe. For those of you who don't understand, before 1994, teams in Europe could only use players as foreign players. There were only 3 per country, and the Euro zone allowed people, if I'm a dentist and I'm from Belgium, I could work as a native in Spain because of the Eurozone. That didn't apply in football. And this guy called Jan-Marc Bosman from Belgium said, hey, why can a dentist work as a national in Spain or Portugal, but not a football player? Makes no sense. And he was right. So from that point on, that's why if you're Italian playing in Spain, you're not a foreign player. You're just a Euro player. So that unlocks so many chances for you to become a national, quote unquote, non-foreign player in Europe. So now you're seeing Cameroonians and Ghanaians and Venezuelans and Colombians with a dual citizenship play as a national in Europe versus being a foreign player. So you don't have to go through all the hoops to play as a national. Having said that, then it's the money, right? So you're seeing Qatar leagues and Saudi Arabia leagues and bring all this money so their leagues become more competitive and their native players become more familiarized with what really pro football looks and feels like. So you're seeing Qatar, even though they got what's handed to them by Canada last night, they drew against Switzerland on match day 1. And then you see the growth of MLS, which for us is huge, right? I think it's the biggest injection of growth internationally, even more so than the Saudi League or the Qatar League, because MLS has grown the game for Canada, and Team USA has grown the game for players to come here and develop, right? It's fascinating. I mean, look at Canada, man. Canada had a proper thumping of what they knew was a lower tier team at home after they drew against Bosnia game 1 in Toronto. So it's really fascinating to see. Look at Cape Verde and look at what Congo did against Portugal. How do you not love the growth of the game?
I am right there with you. It's like I said, I'm a sicko. We've got here in Atlanta at Atlanta Stadium, still Mercedes-Benz to me.
Yeah.
The last day of the group stage, we've got DR Congo and Uzbekistan downtown.
Yeah.
That is, under normal circumstances, a sicko's delight. But considering everything that's going to be on the line in that one may end up evolving into two sickos teams in must-see television in a window that could determine who goes on to the knockouts out of the group stage, with two of your minnows, Uzbekistan under Fabio Cannavaro, who's never been here before, and DR Congo, who hasn't been here in over 50 years, getting all of that history attached to it in a must-win game for two teams that you would have sat there and it's like, well, who are these two? But it gives you a reason to watch. And I love how everyone is just kind of coming in and around on itself and being able to be educated on all these places that you wouldn't know about before.
And that's a great point, John. And because of what that game could mean, right? You're going to have maybe Uzbekistan and Congo fighting for or jousting for a third place spot. That because of both, especially because of Congo tying against Portugal, that match can mean that either Uzbekistan or Congo go through as a 13th place or a third place team. So you're seeing teams waiting to see, hey, am I facing Congo or another team from another group? Maybe you might be, who knows what happens against Colombia and Portugal, who will be playing at that same time in Miami. So it's fascinating. And I'm with you. The other thing is I'm really pleasantly surprised at the assistance and the overall attendance to stadiums.
Yeah.
I did not expect to see Switzerland and Qatar with 68,000 people in Santa Clara. I did not expect Jordan and Austria to give us 68,000 strong at Santa Clara Stadium, San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. I did not. We were saying, hey, maybe 40,000, maybe 35. No, man, it's a San Francisco 49ers game. It's what it is. It's and the Jordan fans were awesome. I mean, tonight's game is going to be crazy with Paraguay and Turkey, how the Turkish travel. But there's an Algeria Jordan match that if you saw the schedule, you would be going like, yeah, who's going to watch this game? Like, who's going to, you know what? After what I saw from Algeria and the Jordan fans here, I can't wait. It's phenomenal. I was a 48 team World Cup hater.
Yeah.
I love it. I hope it stays at 48. I think 64 would be too much, to be honest. But I think 48 is a sweet spot between, hey, we get 4 stage group matches a day. We have enough good teams that, Japan's good, Morocco's good, South Korea's good. And we also have our Curaçaos and Qatar saying, oh, they're kind of trash, but they're interesting, and they might give you a Switzerland-Qatar match. So I think that's the sweet spot, right? Let's keep it there.
But I think at the same time, when we get to the field of 48, how are these nations that are 33 to 48,
right?
How are they going to learn about being on the world stage if they don't have this kind of an opportunity? I mean, when Curaçao got the equalizer against Germany, that building turned. I mean, it was like it's 1-1 to Godvakat, 78 years young. He's sitting there, and everybody's, the neutrals are sitting there going, hey, man. But then, of course, Germany put the pedal down. But to have those moments like we've been having, how do you get those minnows to learn about being on the world stage if you don't have an expanded field?
That's a great point. Plus, if you look at qualifiers, right, and who's not here, right? If I told you, replace Bosnia with Italy, replace Curaçao with Costa Rica, right, who should be here, or replace Tunisia with Cameroon or Nigeria, or replace, I don't know, Iraq with, another.
Someone from Oceania who made it through the qualifier.
Yeah, New Zealand. Well, they made it through, but I don't know. So it just becomes a more interesting tournament, and you're always going to get those teams that are going to get thrashed and thumped. It's been the World Cup forever. Go back to '94. Bolivia had no business being here, and South Korea had no business being here. You go back to '98. Jamaica was made fun of. They were the fun story of the tournament. We always have those teams. Go back to a couple years ago or tournaments ago, John. Panama was just happy to be here. Now they're upset because they had a legitimate chance at beating Ghana or at least drawing a point, and they lost it on the midnight of the game. So it's growth.
I know I'm in added time with you. I've just got one more question, and then we'll cut the promo, and then you can go get breakfast. And if you need a note to get back into class,
no, I'm good. I'm good.
Bruce Arena signs a contract extension.
Yeah.
What's been the feedback on that? I mean, was that a surprise that he's now through 29? I think. What's the feedback?
Not. I think, and he made a joke out of it because of his age. He said there's a death clause in the contract that if I die, it becomes void. So. I think the surprise is the fact that he got rid of who he got rid of, right? Espinoza and Chicho and Joseph, who you know well, and I know really well. And the fact that you get rid of or replace a guy like Espinoza, who is a phenomenal player, who did not want to leave the Bay Area, but felt, if I want to, I've been here long enough, 7 years is long enough. I want to compete elsewhere. I want to just win, have a chance to win. And he might get that chance with Nashville. We here who cover the Quakes were like, how's this team going to score? Where's the firepower? This team's too young. They don't have enough individual talent up top. Then they signed Werner, like, okay, that's a great signing. But we didn't, especially on defense, because they didn't bring in anyone on defense. You are asking yourself, are they just going to run it back with Daniel on goal and Muni and Ricketts and Paul Marie and who? And Preston Judd's going to be your 9? Really? Okay. Well, good luck with that. And I think they really benefit from the World Cup break because they were just leaking oil from the Nico Shakiris injury and the Werner injury. Before those two got hurt, the team was, I think, if not the best team in MLS with Nashville and Inter Miami and Vancouver. They beat Vancouver in Vancouver 1-0. So it's not a surprise. I think because some people are ageist, and you're saying, hey, he's the oldest coach in MLS. He doesn't really have any innovative ways to think about the sport. He's really old school. And is that going to really work well with the younger generation of coaches and players? It does. Is it attractive? No. Is it effective? Yes. And if you have physically, his teams need to be physically fit. They're going to outrun you every single match. And that, you look at the games, how they're winning the games, John. They're physically stamina. Their stamina is just better than anyone else. You have fast center backs. Daniel Muni is the fastest center back in MLS. Bo LaRue is the next export out of San Jose. That kid does not belong in MLS. He should go play in Europe. At some point, they're going to sell him, and good for him. He's a phenomenal football player. Phenomenal. He understands everything. He sees everything. He's going to be a mainstay in Team USA for years to come. I hope. We'll see what Tillman and that line does from Team USA, but he's just a phenomenal player. And Shaqiri's now got the keys handed to him. So he is a proper 10. Another great talent. I love him. So it is surprising, not the extension, but the fact that this team is so good as it is. It's a shocker. It's the Cinderella story of the MLS season so far.
And that's why I wanted to ask you about it. If you would please, sir, before you head to breakfast, cut the promo for everything that is everything at Tomapapa. Let everybody know where they can hang out with you 24/7, 365, and what you're doing with the World Cup, if you would.
Well, thank you, John. First of all, thank you for the invite. I loved it. Let's do it again whenever you want. I'm game. I will be in the East Coast permanently after the World Cup. I'm moving to Miami, so that's going to be fun.
Okay.
After a good 7-year span here in the Bay. You can find me at Tomapapa, Tomapapa. For you, those of you who don't know what that is, that's what I shout out when I do play-by-play in Spanish and someone scores a goal. That's my goal. You can find me on Apple TV calling the games both in Spanish and English for MLS on Apple TV. I'm doing sideline reporting for Telemundo in the World Cup for the 6 matches, at least for the first 6 matches played here in Santa Clara. So you can catch me tonight with a great staff with Roque Santa Cruz and Diego Lugano. He'll be here for the game with Copan Alvarez, and Pepe del Bosque will be here calling that game, Paraguay-Turkey. So every match here from Telemundo or with Telemundo in Santa Clara, I'll be your sideline reporter. I'm doing everything with MLS. I do also NFL with NFL Network International. I host the Spanish podcast for NFL International called Trend Zone. So yeah, I'm doing a bunch of stuff.
Go get breakfast if you would, please, and get your morning coffee. It was great to see you, and I was stunned when you told me that you're out there. I was like, "Whoa, he's up like way the heck early." I mean, full credit to you. You have look. I throw my hands in the air. You're a better man than I for the crack of dawn and answering silly questions from a guy with golden retriever brain. Go get breakfast. Have a great call. Enjoy the things. May all of the words come out right, and may all of the equipment work properly, so no one has any kind of lag, and you're not wondering what did dude just say to me as he was tossing to me. Am I tossing the break? What am I doing? Get out of here, my friend. We'll
Amen. Thank you, John.
You bet. There he goes, Carlos Mauricio Ramirez. That was cool. That's his first cap with us for the morning show. Man, I didn't realize that he was out there. Oh gosh, I hate it when we get folks rolling them out of bed early first thing in the morning, because like I said, I give him full credit. I give Carlos full credit for, if I was getting that kind of a call at like 7:30 in the morning, I would be just sideways. I would, and I give him full credit. So if you watch Telemundo, that's your sideline reporter tonight at Levi's. Sorry, San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. Next up in the queue in a couple of minutes, it's going to be our buddy Nico Moreno. And so Nico's going to come in. And since he's in Seattle, we're going to talk USMNT. We're going to talk about anything else on his mind. But the biggest thing is that he's got to get to the stadium. So he literally has a hard out with us of 8 Eastern or 8 Pacific. Sorry, if it was 8 Eastern, he'd be long gone. So Nico's going to be joining us here in a sec. So the remainder of the show, it's the Power Hour with Nico and Nino. It's flipped this week. And then if technology works, from Guadalajara, we're going to catch up with the Hoff to wrap up the week. And then everybody, find your locations. Find your locations where you're going to be watching the U.S. national team. I know that in some circles it's going to start at 2, the coverage. Then at 3 o'clock is when it's going to get off and running. And then 3 o'clock, and obviously Jason with his coverage. Let me double check his coverage really quickly just to make sure that you know where it's going to be. So if there is a win today, the U.S. can take Group D, because once again, you're looking at head-to-head is the first one. Head-to-head. And we got into it with CMR about what's going on with Christian Pulisic. We're going to get Nico's thoughts coming up here in a sec. 3 o'clock, Lumen Field. So it is going to be Jason at McRae's on the Beltline for the match and a live broadcast of Atlanta Soccer tonight from 6 to 8. 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, 929thegame.com, YouTube channel, 92.9 The Game. So that is where it's going to be today. So 3 to 5 is the match, 3 to 5-ish. Then 6 to 8, Atlanta Soccer tonight. Jason will break down everything. Should have a reaction from the coaches and from Mauricio Pochettino getting you into the night. And then after the U.S., Scotland and Morocco at 6 o'clock. That one is at Foxborough. Then the other Group C matchup, Brazil and Haiti, is at the Link. That one is at 8:30. And then at 11 o'clock, Turkey and Paraguay, where Carlos Mauricio is, and it is going to be that particular time frame with Turkey and Paraguay. And that is at 11 o'clock tonight, once again, at Bay Area Stadium in Santa Clara. It's in Santa Clara. So CMR is going to be in Santa Clara tonight for Turkey and Paraguay. He's up early. Man, he's up early. It's 8 o'clock kick for them and a 11 o'clock kick for us. So it will be far better as he is on the broadcast with Telemundo. So it's always, once again, very, very cool that we're able to catch up with folks. Carlos Mauricio Ramirez, you heard about all the things that he's up to. And so that's where he's lined up. And so he'll be there tonight for Telemundo, and he's going to be all gassed up and ready to get that squared away. So that is the latest with all of that. And so once again, it's great to have him on. And like I said, it frightens me when I have somebody on very, very early in the morning and they come and do that stuff. Like I said, braver than me, braver than I am when it comes to this. So other stuff that's going on, just to give you an idea, once again, Mexico locking up Group A, and then you end up with Canada's big night, first ever win in World Cup history up in Vancouver. And then so they're right on the edge of the knockouts. They need one more point to work their way through, and then they should be good to go for the knockouts. Brazil is not going to have Neymar on Friday today when they face Haiti. Hasn't played since suffering the calf injury ahead of the tournament, continuing his recovery in New Jersey rather than traveling. Remember, first time out, it was a 1-1 draw with Morocco in that opener. And he's Carlos Ancelotti expected to make changes to the lineup going up against a Haiti side playing in their first World Cup in 52 years. So very, very cool stuff there. Time of play is up. FIFA's new measures to limit time wasting apparently working. Now it's from 56.9% in Qatar, ball in play, to 59.4% of the match time, 56.2% in Russia. Average match length has dropped. And so now, time of play is up to about 57% so far early in the tournament through match day 1. Scaloni is expected to start Julian Alvarez over Lautaro Martinez against Austria. Tagliafico continues to work back from a calf injury ahead of that match. So keep an eye on that one. So also on the board, Tercer Tiempo Fest, and we're going to let you know about this one later on in the show. For those of you in the eastern part of the city, 10th edition of Tercer Tiempo Fest. It's an international soccer film festival, and it's going to make its debut this weekend in DeKalb County. And the festival, once again, screenings, panel discussions, community events, and Jason is going to be a part of the panel on the documentary of King Puma. 2 days of films, and it is free to go. So if you're interested, it's Tercer Tiempo Fest, and you can find out all of their stuff on Instagram is where they are. So it'll be catching up with that. But if you have nothing to do early on Saturday, Tercer Tiempo Fest, you can go there and you can see some really cool films. And there's also one, I think, that's tied to Diego Maradona. So you can go and see that there. So Tercer Tiempo Fest, 19th and 20th of June. They're in Bogota from the 13th to the 19th of July, and then they are in Mexico City the following week. But yeah, Tercer Tiempo Fest, and that is once again on today and tomorrow in DeKalb County. And thanks to Discover DeKalb for helping out there as well. They're at the Atlanta Marriott Northeast in the Emory area. So if you need to go and hang out and you want to go watch some really cool stuff, do that. Atlanta Marriott Northeast Emory area today and tomorrow for Tercer Tiempo Fest. So very, very cool stuff there with them. So we got that to get into as well.